Recent talks with the Habs and Rangers potentially making a trade are intensifying as the Kaapo Kakko to Montreal rumors continue to escalate, including an appearance from Craig Button on the Sick podcast with Tony Marinaro today saying he would do a deal in 3 seconds if given the opportunity. We got to talk about that. Plus, Nick Suzuki joins a great all-star team and another stat showing that Habs injuries seemingly are just not getting any better. All of that on this episode of Habs Digest. But guys, before we get into the video, I just want to take a second to ask you guys, if you haven't hit subscribe now. As a lot of you know, we're going for 15,000 subscribers. It's a big goal, I know, but if you're one of the thousands of people who haven't hit that button yet and you like our daily Habs videos, click it now. You won't regret it. Let's jump first into this, and oh boy, so the All-Star Draft was today, and there was a lot of fun, a lot of people saying, oh, it's cringe, all this stuff, a lot of awkward-looking draft picks, but one draft pick that didn't look awkward at all was Nick Suzuki, as he gets selected by Team McDavid, which is a stacked team. It has McDavid, it has Draisaitl, it has Connor Hellebuck, it has David Pastrnak, among others. I believe Dahlin's on the team, Boone Jenner, a lot of really, really good players. I just love this. I love the idea that Nick Suzuki is on a team with McDavid and Draisaitl. Now, will they get to play a ton together? Yeah, I'm not so sure. I mean, these All-Star games are always really weird with how the players kind of bounce around between lines and, you know, how often they're actually on the ice and how often they actually get to try. Because the thing that's kind of gotten really bad with the All-Star game, as much as the NHL has really, really tried to make it a big spectacle, the games just haven't felt exciting in a long time. Gone are the days of these competitive, high-energy games where the teams are actually really trying to beat each other, and now it's more of just a, let's lay back and just see what happens. Let's hang the goalies out to dry. Let's go for some cool skill goals. Not just the skills competition sees that, the actual game sees that, but, you know, I'm still hoping that we see some guys try and put in a little bit of effort, trying to show off their skills and try to see how they look with different players. And as a lot of people were saying, like, there's a world where Leon Draisaitl gets recruited by the Montreal Canadiens, whether he ends up there or not. Yeah, like he's probably not ending up there, but a lot of talks have a lot of people have mentioned that as a possibility. Just saying, right? I mean, he would be a good fit next year after his contract is up, but I digress. Regardless, this is kind of ideal for Nick Suzuki. Now, he was an 8th round pick. He was the second last pick for Team McDavid. The last pick to their team was Tomas Hertl. But yeah, so not picked last. Great news there. Didn't expect him to be picked last. Did expect him, however, to be picked over Boone Jenner. But you know, sometimes these drafts like to draft maybe some of the more veteran guys. First is what it is. But all in all, really cool to see Nick Suzuki get on a team, such a stacked team like this. To me, this is the best team heading into All-Star Weekend. So hopefully our boy Nick can come out with a nice win. Let's move on next to some Habs injury stuff. And, you know, a lot of you guys know the injury bug has still bitten the Habs this year. And while it's not quite as bad as last year, the Habs are still one of the worst teams in the league for injury management after overhauling their entire medical staff, getting some of the best medical staff in the NHL this past offseason. The Habs have still had some major injuries. Of course, Kirby, Dach, freak accident 2 games into the season. You can't really prevent that. But at the same time, it sucks. And of course, Alex Newhook, the 10 to 12 week, he should be back within the next month or so, which is going to be a great boost for this team. But I'll just show you a little picture here. This is an NHL injury summary for this season. And it shows, right now it has it sorted by the amount of cap that has been put on injured players. You can see at the bottom of the legend there, CHIP is cap hit of injured players. But if you just look at man games lost, MGL, that first column, you will notice that San Jose is at 277. But if you go down the list just a bit to find Montreal, just below Anaheim there, 246 man games lost. That is second in the NHL, just a little bit ahead of the Las Vegas Golden Knights. And again, that's a ton of time. And last year we had, of course, Dach injured for a while. We had Monahan injured. We had RHP injured. We had, just injury after injury. Caufield, of course, and then Slafkovsky missing the season, and Guhle and Anderson. And now this year we got Dvorak, who is going to be out for the remainder of the season, right? Then we have, obviously, Kirby Dach out for the full season. We have Alex Newhook. We've had minor injuries here and there to various guys. To still be second in the NHL in man games lost is a little bit of a concern. Now, again, I feel like every year we kind of look at this and say, well, that was a freak accident, and so was that, right? And like, there's like Dvorak tearing his pec, it's a freak accident, and Tenorti hitting Dach into the boards. But at the same time, it's still a trend, and I don't understand how this is still a problem, to be honest. And I don't want to say I'm actually really concerned about the future. I'm actually really concerned about the medical staff. No, not necessarily. I think that'd be an irresponsible take, but I just got to keep bringing it up. I mean, The fact that the Habs heading into the All-Star break are again right up there with most man games lost is not a good omen for this team going forward. And knock on wood, Sean Monahan is still healthy. He's not part of that right now, and I'm sure he's going to get a nice haul around the deadline, so that might even be some more motivation for Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton to be working those trade markets a little sooner rather than later to make sure that they can ship Monahan before he maybe, even tweaks anything, right? While he's fully healthy, he's playing well. You don't expect him to get injured, obviously, but you never know. And again, the fact that Habs seemingly can't keep anyone healthy is a bit of a worry. But again, at the same time, all you can do is look forward to the future. Newhook's back soon. Dach will be back healthy for next season. There's a lot to look forward to for the future. A bunch of young bodies coming in too. A bunch of guys who are probably a lot less likely to get hurt. Really, really excited for the future. But speaking of the future, there are going to be some trades. And speaking of Sean Monahan, and one of the rumors that is going around and around is Kaapo Kakko. And I know Drew Deeks covered this a few days ago. Tony Marinaro talked with Craig Button about this today. There's been rumors swirling for a few days. I mean, if not weeks. We've kind of mentioned this right when we first saw that Monahan was mentioned as a possibility for the New York Rangers, of course, with Philip Hedl going out, and now Monahan clearly being the best center on the market. He's a perfect fit for the New York Rangers, among other teams, but let's focus on the Rangers for now. And on the Sick Podcast with Craig Button today, Button, I got a little screenshot here. He said, look, he's going to take the bird in the hand rather than the two in the bush. In essence, saying you got Kaapo Kakko, who looks like he has been, sort of a 50-point player. This season, not so much. But he said if you can get Kaapo Kakko for Sean Monahan to make a deal work, he would take it in 3 seconds. And I'm a little bit on board with this. We talk about first-round picks, and we talk about the production level of these guys. Kaapo Kakko was a 40-point guy in 82 games last year with 18 goals. He has a great shot, but he hasn't had a ton of time to really play on the power play. Those 40 points, I mean, I think almost all of them were 5v5, if I'm not mistaken, right? He really has good offensive upside, and he's also a fantastic defensive forward. I feel like people gloss over that, right? I feel like people just look at points and they say, well, this is how good a player is because they have this many points. No, Kakko's also quite a good defensive player. In fact, he could play on the Montreal PK right now, and he would arguably be their second best defensive forward behind Suzuki. I would probably say Evans is still better, but it is what it is. But at the same time, you see a guy who already had a 40-point season, and he's only 22 years old. He's about to be 23 in a couple weeks. He's still very young. He's going to be a restricted free agent at the end of this season, and his contract is not bad. In fact, it fits almost perfectly with Sean Monahan. You can see a cap hit at $2.1 million. Monahan's being just under $2 million. It makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, you see Rangers fans saying, well, some of them are saying, yeah, let's get rid of Kakko. Things are just not working out. 5 goals, 1 assist this year. His production is just really, really poor. And they say, maybe we take Monahan for this playoff run, this playoff push. But the problem with the Rangers, Igor Shesterkin has had one of the worst months of his career. He's due for a bounce back, I'm sure. But like Zibanejad's production, 5v5 has really gone down. Maybe it's 5v5 or power play. But Zibanejad, regardless, has taken a little bit of a step back. Still got Panarin playing really well. But you're a team like the Rangers. Monahan can provide a much-needed boost for this team. Again, on the face-off dot, he can be on your power play. He can do pretty much everything. And if you're them, you didn't move on from Lafreniere, and you're actually really happy that you didn't do that. But if you're looking at Kaapo Kakko, I know a lot of Rangers fans are kind of saying, look, you know what? For the right price, it might not hurt just to get him to a new place. He's not working out here. Send him somewhere where he can thrive. And I think Montreal could be the perfect team for this trade to happen. And another reason is that the New York Rangers don't really have that much draft capital. Yes, they have some first round picks, but if you take a look here, they don't have a third in this year's draft. They don't have a second, third, or fourth in next year's draft, and they don't have a second in the 2026 draft. They have first round picks that are available to give up, but with their relative lack of draft picks coming up for the next few years, after making a lot of other trades, they might be one of the teams that are more likely to deal one of their young players that has value rather than just dish off a first round pick. They're going to still need to build up through the draft in the next coming years. They have a good team. They still can't compete. Shesterkin, despite his really poor month of January, is still one of the top goalies in the NHL, whether the stats right now show it or not. Goalies are weird, right? You never really know with goalies. I mean, crazy things can happen. But at the end of the day, you look right now, you look at the New York Rangers, you look at Kaapo Kakko. Would he fit on Montreal? I think so. Is he another reclamation project? I don't even know if he's a reclamation project. This year's not working out. But last year, the dude had 40 points in 82 games while being a very solid defensive player. I think people look at Kaapo Kakko and they kind of assign a more of a bust kind of moniker to him just because he was drafted so high and his production hasn't met that. And yes, again, we'll show it again. He was the second overall pick in 2019. That's another thing. Montreal just collecting 2019 overall draft picks. Is Jack Hughes next? Doubt it. But at the same time, Kaapo Kakko, second overall pick, you look at his stats and you're like, he's just not doing it for me. But if you just remove that from the conversation and you're the Montreal Canadiens and you're looking at moving Sean Monahan, Kakko right now is a very solid third liner, if not, maybe a top, definitely with top 6 upside, and could arguably be on the second line now if his defensive potential keeps growing and he still plays a really, really solid defensive game. I think he's a good fit. I think he's a good fit on every team. I think you got to look past the points, not fully, because it is a bit worrying to see his lack of production this year, especially over his career, even with good line mates. But I think a change of scenery could do him good. I think if the Habs can get that, a guy who's proven already with 40 points, I think it could be a good idea. I'm kind of on board with Craig Button, but I'd love to hear what you guys think. Would you go for a Kaapo Kakko trade if you were Montreal? I think I would. I think if that was the deal, if it was Monahan around for Kakko, maybe you toss in some draft picks here and there to make things work, I think it could really make a lot of sense. I think he could thrive in Montreal. He's the kind of guy that the Habs are going for, the kind of a bigger guy. He plays that big, heavy dump game, right? It's great. I think he could work out really well. But anyway, let me know down in the comments. I've rambled too long about Kaapo Kakko, so I'm going to cut the video off there. That'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. And if you enjoyed, hit that subscribe button. We would really, really appreciate it. I've been your host, Josh Gosse. I'll catch you in the next one.